Hi, everyone. Happy Friday and another live session of our Heat Press for Profit podcast. While you guys are joining on, I'm going to go ahead and hop into our intro, and then we will get right into today's conversation. Before we start, Darren, I see that you have already said hello and that you didn't get a chance to say hi at DAX. So hi, I wish you would have said hello since you, attend and pop on our lives every Friday. So, okay, guys, let's go ahead and get this started. Welcome to the Heat Press for Profit podcast, your go-to resource for everything related to your apparel decoration business success. Thank you for tuning in as we dive deep into the dynamic world of heat printing. We explore lucrative business strategies, insider tips, and cutting-edge trends straight from the heat apparel decoration community. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this podcast was designed to provide invaluable insights, how-to perspectives, and inspiring stories from industry experts and apparel decorators just like you. If you are watching with us live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or LinkedIn, make sure you shout out who you are, where you're tuning in from, and of course, your business name. Today's guest, very excited to have her back on our channel, is Caitlin Andrew, and she is the special project manager for DFC. Now, Caitlin, thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to join us and doing this live. I know this is one that you're like, fine, I'll do it. I'll do it if you want me to do it. So everyone, welcome Caitlin, a warm welcome. And of course, as we are going through, our topic today, please feel free to ask questions. That is definitely what we're here for. She's telling me that she is losing connection, so I'm going to let her pop back on. But in the meantime, let's just quickly talk about today's topic. So we are talking about the NFL Combine experience with UltraColor MAX. If you had a chance to watch the Combine, pop it in the comments. Let us know who really got to see, what was going on, and of course the product and apparel that they were wearing, because that was direct-to-film transfers that were created specifically for those athletes, and they were created on site. And Caitlin is one that manages those projects. She works very, very close with NOBULL and the events to make sure that we are getting the best products and the right products in their hands. And of course, with something being being televised, we want to make sure that those products are going to exude high quality. They are going to last with those athletes. They are in and out of those garments. And it's extremely important that, on television, especially when it's televised, streamed, put on all social media accounts, that they're represented well. They're elite athletes, and it's very important to make sure that the apparel that they're wearing really matches the performance overall. Now, Caitlin hasn't popped back on yet, and we will dive just a little bit deeper, but let's take a look at who is tuning in. I thought I turned off everything. Let's see. Well, we're going to pause for just a second. Then let's see if I can get her to respond. Okay, gotta love trying to go live when internet starts to fail you, right? Especially for a podcast. So like what I was saying with Caitlin, she is one, if you remember us doing the draft podcast as well, she was our other guest, and I interviewed her on just really what the experience was, what it was like getting set up with activations. This one is really going to be more of a product talk versus an activation. Yes, of course, there's an experience that those athletes get to go through, and really being able to showcase how our products can work on brands like NOBULL. But the cool thing is with UltraColor MAX direct to film, it's important that there is a stretch and rebound, that it's really, really lightweight. And because we are doing this experience where it's immediate activation, we need to make sure that there's minimal errors. She's back. Welcome back.
scenery too.
No big deal. It's not a big deal at all. Actually, Hunt for Love said that they were actually at the combine. So that's really cool that somebody was watching and was there. Let's see if there was any others. Okay, so Caitlin, I talked just a little bit about the combine UltraColor MAX direct to film, but let's take a couple of steps back and really just kind of give us an overview of what the goal is at the combine when it comes to decorated apparel. It's still an experience and an activation, but it's not it's for the players, right? It's not for the people attending. So just give us a little bit, a story on that.
Yeah, so DFC has actually been doing the combine for over 10 years. And what I find to be so cool is that almost every 2 years, the official contract changes. So that dictates who our partner will be working on this project. They're the ones hiring us. So it's really their vision that kind of drives the initial start to the project. But that's what makes it so fun for us, because as STAHLS, we have such a variety of transfers and different types of decoration methods that really will bring their vision to life. And I think that is the fun part about doing the combine every year, is it's not the same thing. So it really is the strategic partner that we are with that can change over the years. So this year was with NOBULL, and this is the second year that they've done the combine. So we actually did not only the athlete apparel, but we did apparel for staff as well.
That's okay. So when you're doing apparel for the athletes and then you're doing apparel for the staff, two completely different products, personalization, I'm assuming, because for the staff, is it more of a universal look versus personalization and customization?
Correct. So it is more the like NFL shield or the combine logo that's going to be across the staff. And that staff could be NOBULL staff members. It could be NIC staff members, the NFL network. It could be for medic apparel. So all the way across the board. But yes, a little bit less customization, more just the logo branding for them to go on site.
So when you are trying to determine what product, because there are so many different heat products that are available, DFC, which is the Decorated Fulfillment Center, you guys can get your hands on so many products, right? So how does it become the determining decision that direct to film, specifically UltraColor MAX, is the product of choice?
Yeah, obviously this is going to be a process and a lot of variables that are to be considered, with it being most of the production here at our facility. But then we also have to make sure that we're taking it into account that we will be on site. So making sure that it will work for both facilities and venue styles. So it usually starts with their vision board and what they're after. And then we will then recommend product lines that we feel like would really achieve their goals and their vision based off of the mood boards that they presented to us. For this design style, a lot of it was very simplistic, which really worked in their favor. But what was cool is we did a perforation for numbers. So it's that little detail that we were like, this is a no-brainer. This is going to be UC Max for sure. And just the level of detail that you can get into those dots in the perforation, making sure that there's no perimeter across the board. It was definitely something that we sampled for them, and it was almost an immediate yes after we made sure that all fabric styles looked good and achieved what they were after.
How much testing did you guys have to go through? Because I think when people are, really looking at, say, being a decorator for a specific event or a specific experience, or looking at doing activations, there's just so much that can go into it. And one thing you mentioned was, product or textile types, and then obviously looking at artwork. And obviously, as somebody is showing you art that you can't do with vinyl, right? It's just not going to work, even though there needs to be personalization. how do you narrow it down? And with all the testing, did you have to show them multiple products and really apply to all products that they were wanting, in terms of their lineup to get that check mark of approval?
Yeah, we like to take that extra step just to make sure that we have tested all fabric styles and made sure that they perform as well, because these are for the athletes, right? So they're going to be not just representing this by style, but they're going to be on the field actually doing activity too. So we want to make sure that it withstands anything that they would be doing on the field. So we did test out all the fabrics, and each athlete this year got 15 different pieces just for their apparel. So we were able to do all the testing before. One style that we wanted to make sure we took care of first was the compression, because that is the most popular item that you will see when you're watching the combine. So making sure
And that was like a tan, camel, Vegas gold color. I felt like it was different colors at different times. What color was it?
So it's based off your position. So
okay.
There was 5 different colors this year, a mixture of like army green. There was like a gargoyle gray. They're black, a red for your QBs. So it's very easy to identify those athletes as they kind of take on the field. But then you have some streamline of they're all white graphics and they all are the same design. So you have differences with the colors and you can play around with that, but it still was a very streamlined look for them and was a good representation of their brand.
I mean, that just adds a whole nother factor into the preparation going in and leading up to actually the application, because are these products produced ahead of time and then the players receive their kit, or is it as they come on site you're doing that personalization for them?
Yeah, so this is a fast moving event. It does start in our facility here in Pennsylvania first, and we have, I would say, about a month to get all product out for the athletes. This year, there was around 321 that attended the event, and even the NFL is not getting those names until about a month before, just to see who will be in attendance. So once those names are then provided to us, that's when we can begin production. So we can't really get ahead of the game here, except for just making sure that we've gone through testing. We have all of our departments ready to go and know the flow of how it's going to be, just so we can be very smart with our time, because we don't have too much of it. So yes, the majority of the product is produced here. And like I said, they each got 15 items just for their apparel. But we also did accessory kits for them too. So that included about 4 different style hats, again, using UC Max for the majority of it. And then we also kit their items. So each athlete got a duffel bag provided by NOBULL, and we fold the apparel inside that duffel. So it's just easier for them on site to make sure that those athletes have the best experience. So even after producing these elements and keeping them organized, they then go to our packing department, packing and shipping, and we are folding it and then making it organized for NOBULL's team. So when they arrive on site, also at a short time, they can really get into it and have it ready to go for athlete check-in.
Now, was there any on-site application as well?
Yes. So we also used UltraColor MAX, so there would be no difference from the athletes for the graphics on site. And we had 2 employees there, myself and Courtney, who is also in our DFC division. And we are behind the scenes, pretty much right over the wall of where the athletes are checking in. They have a awesome setup. NOBULL has really gone above for them, giving them this experience. So they have kind of like a locker room style, and they have a couple of pieces hung up for them. So as they enter this check-in, they see their name in this locker, they see all those pieces. And if you've been able to kind of follow on social media and check there, it's just the excitement that these athletes feel when they go see their names for one of the biggest events of their careers. very rewarding. So it definitely brings a lot of excitement. They go in, they try on all of their pieces, kind of like one style, just to make sure that everything is fitting properly. And if they feel like they want to do a size adjustment, size up or size down, we're on the other side of the wall so that we can get those work orders and adjust those sizes accordingly and make sure that they get their apparel same day so they can go to the field.
So not only have you prepped product prior, you did the rigorous testing to make sure that it was really going to give them the the ease and movement that they needed, obviously quality to match the quality of the NOBULL garments. You prepped, prepared, packaged all of these kits, duffel kits, and then you have extra transfers on hand on site with extra additional blanks just in case somebody needs to do a change.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely. So every single graphic that athlete required here at our facility, we duplicate those graphics, making sure there's 2 different sizes. Depending on what garment size that athlete called out, the graphic could be a little bit smaller or a little bit larger. So when we go on site, we just have to make sure that we are adjusting all of our artwork to fit in the circumstance that they were to go to a smaller size garment, that our graphics also accommodated for that as well. So there's a lot of behind the scenes tweaks and adjustments that you kind of have to think about, because when you're on site, you know how fast things happen, and you have to be ready for all of that. So yes, we had a graphic produced for all the athletes ready to go on site. Anything that we could think of, like the shield or things for the branding that would consistently come up, we just made sure that we had those extra graphics on hand.
That's a great tip to just keep in mind for anybody that is looking to do any type of experience as a whole. This was a little bit of a different experience, right? You're not necessarily in front of everyone. They're picking out their items and then applying it, and then they get to take it with them. This is all customization on the back end, but then having preparation for, oh my gosh, we've got to adjust a size. Now you can duplicate almost everything that you did previously on site, but nobody sees the work or the effort that you put into making sure that that was all possible. When it comes to the art and the preparation of the design, Darren actually had a great question. He said, how easy was it to line up the perforations and the designs with the ones in the shirts, or did you?
So the perforation is really easy for us because it was that UltraColor MAX product. So we actually, when we're doing the transfers, we try to make it one impression as often as we can. So even though if you're looking at the back of a lot of their apparel, it would say the athlete's name and then the number underneath it. We are creating that artwork so it is one unit. So you're not having to press the name first and then do a second impression for the number. Obviously, time is something that's very important to us, but also the ease of the heat seal operator. So just making sure whenever we can reduce that work, maybe we have to consider a little bit of the waste that might happen, but the ease and the timing of the transfer is what has helped us. So we kept that transfer as one unit. So you're really only having to line up the name from the neck of the jersey down. And so it was a pretty easy placement for us.
One hit, one application, one peel. You don't have to worry about too many other things involved. Is just making sure that that first application and placement is accurate. So it's another great tip. When I know I have talked to people about wanting to do names and numbers on site, and obviously that's more for personalization, customization, for sports and jerseys or team tees. But one thing that I always try to recommend is, if you can have something like Player Perfect, where it's the name and the number, or you're able to cut out the name and number attached if you're cutting on site, do it, because it will save you so much time in the long run. That you'll thank yourself that you're not sitting there and adjusting every little piece of, material to get it right. Now, for the perforations as a whole, was the compression garment perforated at all? Was it a like a compression mesh, or was it just a solid material?
So actually the back piece of the compression was kind of like a mesh or a perforation. I don't think it would be visible on camera, but
Sure.
that texture was different from the front of the piece. But we had no issues with application. It actually gave a really cool effect. But from afar, it was just that level of detail that NOBULL was after.
Yeah, I think that's really incredible when it comes to being able to do high detail like that. It wasn't this, incredibly colorful design where there was, a lot of gradients or 50 shades of, the rainbow in there. It was a very, very simplistic and minimal design, but because you were able to add the details of, the mesh or the perforation on it, you just can't get that with anything else, that high level of detail. And depending on how you're looking at it, you may not see that detail, but when you get up close and you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Plus, I'm sure that those added holes or perforations added just a little bit of extra breathability and stretchability with the transfer in garment itself.
Yeah, and I mean, we've, like I said, been doing the combine for years, and every style for every single vendor is completely different. And I think NOBULL really wanted to make sure that their clothing brand really stood out and it really matched their branding that they have on their website right now, which is that simplistic, high quality fabrics that they're after. And I think the athletes definitely got to see that firsthand. And they had off field apparel in addition to what everyone saw on the TV. So that is your hoodies, that's your zip ups, some accessories that they just like to walk around in and
Sure.
rep that brand. So even another thing to consider that we brought up to the NOBULL team is they had like 3 different style hoodies and a long sleeve shirt, and it was a very similar graphic, but just enough that it would be a different one. So we were like, why can we make some adjustments so that this one graphic would go across these 4 different units and garment
Okay.
styles to try to reduce the artwork that was needed on hand, and it just makes it a little bit more streamlined for sizing and grab and go. So thinking of those little details and trying to reduce across the board definitely helped.
There's been so many little thought bubbles, good tips for anybody that's, even looking on taking on new customers in this process, because I stress, ooh, excuse me. I stress testing garments so much. Like, the best thing that you can do is test, especially on, a polyester or a spandex or a tinsel, rayon, lyocell, like all of those textiles have the ability to scorch. A lot of them also have incredible movement. So the more you can test and really show your customer, what you're capable of doing and what the product you work with is capable of doing, people are always wowed. And they can touch it and see it in person. That always adds a different effect to it. But you've talked about making tiny adjustments to art to where that one design can work across multiple and still give the feel of this garment being different, and this item being different. Another thing is making sure if you're on site, you always have extras and backups. Just for safety, especially if it is for an event like this where you need those pieces at that moment in time. It's not something that can get there in 24, 48 hours, later. Have a couple of extras, at least something to be able to create just in case something goes wrong or some sizing isn't correct. What else would you say would be a good tip just in this particular process of working with a high level brand, an event, multiple garments, and making sure that organization is key?
I mean, there's just a lot that goes into all these events, but I try to look at it from start to finish and try to think of the process along the way to see what are we going to run into, because we are always going to run into something, no matter how long we've been doing this. It's always different. So just getting ahead of some of those things that we can predict.
Mhm.
But I would say it's a very manual process because it is such a short-term project. So we're only doing this for about a month and then it has to get out the door. So the more preparation that you can do beforehand, even for our, our department here or facility, is starting and staging. How can we make it so when they're pulling the items, it goes from heaviest item to smallest, because that also helps with what platen we're going to use when it then gets pushed to heat seal. So you're not having to take your 16 by 20 off and then put a smaller platen on. We know exactly the order of operations as it starts and then gets out through our facility.
Efficiency really is key in a short timeline, high level customer, high product count, and diversification of the products that you're pressing on. So again, I think you're just full of tips today. So which I think is great, because even though this is, definitely a unique experience, all the things that we've gone over are something that can be implemented into a standard job or, production order. I will say Alex Bartle said, great job, Caitlin. So cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is fun. And I think everyone like on TV gets to see the magic that happens, but I think it's really rewarding for STAHLS as a company to kind of see the behind the scenes and what goes into it. Because obviously from the general public's perspective, it's like, okay, that's awesome. Like their apparel
Certain
looks so
garments
good.
appeared. Yeah.
But then
Those
when
are cool.
when people start to figure out like what goes into it and what needs to be done ahead of time, I think that's when it's like, whoa, this is a bigger deal than we portray sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely like the secret sauce to how those athletes look so put together, right? It's not something that's talked about, but it's definitely happening, and you're making it happen. We have another question from Hunt for Love. Where can we see a close-up sample of that? And I know that they're referring to the perforation of, those transfers. Is there anything on the DFC, social channels or anywhere that's really showing that fine detail?
We do have some on our Instagram for DFC. I know even just the STAHLS heat printing IG account was trying to use some of that as well. We're still posting from the event now that we have returned. So I would still check out, I would say STAHLS heat printing will probably be posting some more. I think there is at least one image off the top of my head to show that perforation.
Stay tuned. If you are going to be in Atlantic City in a couple of weeks for Impressions AC, I will tell you we will have some of those products there for you to touch, feel, see in person. So I will also do my best to make sure that I'm trying to get as close up images and post those behind the scenes. So if you guys don't see anything, make sure you message us on, Instagram or Facebook, and I'll have a reminder to make sure that we at least have something somewhere. But you can touch and feel it in Atlantic City if you're going to be there. Let's see, Caitlin, what would you like to see, going forward, at the Combine, since you guys have been involved for so long? I know every year there's always something where it's like, oh, we could do this a little bit different, but what's something that you would like to see happen over the next couple of years?
Honestly, I just love evolving with these different vendors and being able to achieve their looks that are so completely different. I know we talked about NOBULL being very simplistic and really letting their garments lead and be that durable fabric that everyone is used to. In years past, we've worked with brands like New Era, and their vision was more reflective and fluorescent. So I think it's just really cool to let these vendors kind of dictate where our design goes. And what's nice is that with STAHLS' variety of transfers, we're really able to say, yes, we can achieve that look for you almost every single time, which is so cool. So honestly, I just like to begin the process and allow them to kind of lead us on the path of the design.
It is great to see kind of how these brands get to bring their vision to life, and then how we can support them in terms of decoration, because we've been talking a lot more about branding and understanding your brand, your customer's brand, and being able to have NOBULL be true to who they are in terms of the decoration on their garments. I think that is a great representation of, one, branding for a customer, and then two, just being able to truly execute, what needs to be done.
Yeah, I think it's the level of support that we give too. It's a lot of the communication beforehand. They know we are going to do a good job with the decoration. They know that we have that process down. I think it's also the communication from project manager, from our side to their side, just making sure they know what to expect, and we can plan for anything and everything, so they know that they feel comfortable during this event, because they have other things going on too. We're just one aspect for them.
Yeah.
So having that comfort, knowing that we're reliable and flexible and we're thinking ahead, I think really helps them a lot.
I think that you're doing an incredible job and building these relationships with these vendors and these events, and it's clear that they really truly enjoy working with you. So thank you so much for popping on and just giving us a little bit of rundown about the Combine. How can people follow DFC or see what's going on, what brands that you work with? What's the best way to kind of stay up to date with that?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we do have our Instagram handle. We are trying to use that a little bit more, but honestly, I would say a great resource is our website. It does have a few outlines of some of our previous projects and sometimes what we are getting ready to get into. But STAHLS Heat Printing IG account usually does a good job of promoting all divisions, so we're usually included in that too.
Perfect. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them down below. You can go to the Heat Press for Profit group on Facebook, and we will do our best to get those questions and answers out to you. I did see that there was a quick question about, are there different thicknesses of flex style? And the short answer to that is yes, depending on if you are going with beveled, dome, flat, textured. I feel like clear is even a little bit thinner. All of those are going to have different heights in the actual texture of the transfer. And you can also state for some like dome, if you want a certain point to be thicker, then you can actually state that to where you have a little bit more level and valleys in your design. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is connect with somebody in customer service or reach out to STAHLS, and we can get you definitely a more high level detailed answer. But when it comes to flex styles and patches and emblems, there's just really so much that you can really do. So that's an entire podcast within itself. But thank you for the question. Caitlin, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday. It's always a pleasure. And I just love seeing what you are able to come up with and put together. And you are clearly doing an excellent job for both our brand representation as well as their brand.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the invite today.
Yeah. All right, guys, we will see you next Friday. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye, guys.